As the world grapples with multiple flashpoints, tonight we will examine two critical crises testing international resolve. In southern Lebanon, the fragile truce between Israel and Hezbollah faces renewed challenges after a deadly Israeli drone strike in Halta, raising urgent questions about the viability of peace and the risk of further escalation. Meanwhile, in South Asia, teeters as India and Pakistan suspend foundational treaties, exchange artillery fire, and deploy advanced military assets, raising fears of a regional conflagration. From the ruins of Rafah to the line of control's tense borders, we unpack the human toll and the diplomatic failures driving these conflicts. I'm Raham Morsi. Let's get in focus. Israeli occupation forces issued an evacuation warning to residents in Beirut's southern suburbs, the first such warning in nearly a month ahead of planned strikes on what they claim are Hezbollah targets. According to the Times of Israel, the Israeli army spokesperson Avishai Adrai said on X that residents should evacuate several buildings in the Hadath neighborhood and move at least 300 meters away. Additionally, residents reported hearing gunfire throughout the area, which they believed was intended to warn people to evacuate. They also noted a massive traffic jam on roads leading out of the neighborhood. To help provide more analysis on this situation in southern Lebanon, we're joined from Beirut by Mr. Abdullah Naim, a political analyst. Thank you, sir, for joining us here on In Focus. Sir, firstly, let's start off by asking, what details can you share about the most recent Israeli drone strike in Halta and its implications for the local population and local residents of this area?
Of course, we're aware that Israeli is violating the agreement day by day, and I think the effect, it impacts the economic stance of the state very severely, and Israel shall stop these daily violations committed on southern Lebanon. We're aware that there is an airstrike on southern suburbs after the Nabih Berri statements regarding turning in their weapons, and I think that last escalation by Naim Qasim and what was stated by President Berri yesterday regarding not turning in their weapons except with the Israeli withdrawal from the 5 areas in the south, and after Israel stops all the violations, the same terms stated by Naim Qasim, and Israel considered this escalation after such as what happens after the 2006 when Hezbollah started establishing the infrastructure once again. Israel, with this message today, they are saying that they are not going to allow Hezbollah to do what they have done in 2006, and they will eliminate all the Hezbollah powers. This was a message to the Lebanese government and to Nabih Berri in particular and to Hezbollah. And of course, you know that there are negotiations taking place between Iran and the United States, and unfortunately, United States is negotiating regarding the nuclear program without and not the Iranian arms in the region, and we know that Hezbollah is an Iranian arm in the region, and they are taking advantage of this to gain leverage in the
So it's
negotiations.
basically a way to sabotage the negotiations. Is this your belief? Sorry,
No, it's a pressuring card. The strike today against Lebanon is a response to the statements the statements said by Naim Qasim and Nabih Berri, because President Berri yesterday said that they will not turn on their weapons before the Israeli withdrawal from the five areas that they are turning against the resolution 1701. And Hezbollah considers that they turned in 90% of their weapons, and there are only the five areas that Israel considers strategic, but they are violating this agreement every day, and Hezbollah is afraid of turning in their weapons, and Israel in the following day will enter Lebanon and Beirut. As stated by Berri earlier, that they turned their weapons north of the Litani River, but the rest will be after the full Israeli commitment to the agreement. This was Israel responded to this today, that they are not going to evacuate the strategic area, and they will not accept any terms by Hezbollah. And the strike against the suburbs was a clear message to create tensions between the public and Hezbollah. We are aware that these strikes
yes.
Prompt resistance against Hezbollah.
But this is also in violation of a ceasefire, sir. I mean, as you said, the Israeli side has repeatedly violated the ceasefire agreement and affected civilian life and regional stability as a whole. We've even seen the presidency come out with a statement about holding the Israelis to account, asking, the rapporteurs and the representatives like the United States to hold the Israelis to the account and, ensure that the ceasefire is not violated. Do you think this is something that is possible, or will no one be able to hold the Israeli side to account?
Of course, Israel will not be held accountable, because the 1701 resolution, which Lebanon fully committed to, and it gives Israel the right to actually commit these violations, because there is an item stipulating that for each party the right to defense as they see fit. And Hezbollah signed this, as well as Israel, and Israel sees it as self-defense to strike a different region every day. And they are aware that the Lebanese army will not be able to respond equally, and Israel is taking advantage of this item in the 1701 resolution.
But sir, you spoke about the idea of the five border posts or outposts that the Israelis have maintained presence in. How is this useful to the Israelis? Why do they still maintain a presence there? And how is this considered self-defense in any way or form with a ceasefire in effect?
Of course, Israel should evacuate these 5 points, because the 1701 resolution should be upheld by Israel and Lebanon, and what is happening in the south is not stipulated in 1701 resolution. Hezbollah today, if Israel withdraws from the 5 points, maybe Hezbollah will turn on their weapons, and the Israel remaining in these 5 points is giving an excuse to Hezbollah to keep doing what they're doing, and things will stay the same. And Israel also is taking advantage of the situation to assault Lebanon every day, and launch their attacks on innocent civilians. Also, Israel is violating the resolution and there is the committee of five should practice some pressure on Israel, but unfortunately they are taking the excuse that each of both party can respond as they see fit. But unfortunately, Lebanon is incapable of responding to such attacks.
Okay, sir, what about the recent evacuation warning that the Israeli army had given to the Beirut residents before striking? This is, again, the second time that this has happened during the ceasefire, even though that the Israelis have already struck parts of Lebanon without warning. Why is it they're warning right now, and why is this significant?
In the suburbs, always Israel issues the warnings before striking the suburbs, because it's known that the suburbs is full of population. And today the strike was on a residential area, 100% residential area, and Hezbollah uses these areas for religious ceremonies. It's not a weapons warehouse as alleged by Israel. We have seen 4 warnings before Israel struck by the 35 airplanes to making the excuse that there is a weapon warehouse there. And of course there were live bullets, the exchange of bullets by the Hezbollah and the security elements to evacuate the area. These warnings were to evacuate the areas. We have seen a wide range evacuation and terror spread among the populations. The students are now out of schools, and the elderly are running the streets. Of course, it's not easy striking the suburbs and striking Beirut. It's a huge message to Hezbollah and the Lebanese state, and Hezbollah should actually read the message as it's sent. What's being done by Israel is unacceptable, and Lebanon should take steps going and complaining to the Security Council and to the US, which brokered the 1701 resolutions and the agreement. And Israel should also withdraw from the 5 points and halt all the hostilities being committed every day. The diplomatic solution is the only option here, and the military option will only bring...
You've made your point clear there, but we're out of time for this segment. So that was Mr. Abdullah Naim, a political analyst. I apologize for cutting you off there. Thank you for your insights. You joined us from southern Lebanon. From Beirut rather. Thank you so much for joining us. From southern Lebanon's rubble to South Asia's escalating tensions, the crisis where decades-old treaties are crumbling. As India and Pakistan exchange fire and rhetoric, what's driving this dangerous brinkmanship? Let's turn to the latest developments in India and Pakistan. As global powers focus on multiple crises, the escalating conflict between India and Pakistan following a recent attack in Kashmir is receiving limited international attention. As reported by the New York Times, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi has spoken with over a dozen world leaders and diplomats from 100 missions in New Delhi and has been briefed. Meanwhile, both nations have exchanged small arms fire across the border on several nights, underscoring the volatility. India has launched a security crackdown in Kashmir, arresting hundreds, and announced plans to restrict water flow to Pakistan. In response, Pakistan has suspended participation in key bilateral agreements, including one governing the disputed border region. For more analysis, we're joined by Niraj Singh Manas, Special Advisor for South Asia Party Policy Initiative from New Delhi. Thank you, sir, for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your kind invite.
Thank you for joining us. Let's start off by asking India's deployment of the INS Vikrant and Pakistan use of the M110 artillery suggests some sort of readiness for a more prolonged conflict. How likely is it that a full-scale war may take place or be triggered?
Okay, first of all, we need to understand one thing that India view this kind of a development of deployment of INS Vikrant in the Arabian Sea as what we saw happened a very bad massacre on 22nd of April, and as a strategic signal of a strength and deterrence rather than an immediate action of war. Because, we need to understand that this INS Vikrant, which is right now currently, moving towards, Pakistan's coastline, it is right now at, a positioning of 600 to 700 kilometers far away from the Pakistan's coastline. But it also enhances the India's maritime dominance and the ability to control the key routes, because we also need to understand that this is the only route through which Pakistan accounts of 60% of their trade route. And that is why this becomes very much important. Similarly, from our counterpart, Pakistan has also deployed military arsenal. And, because both the sides has got heated up due to the recent Islamistic attack which has happened on a Pahalgam on Kashmir, and which has actually unfortunately has taken up a lives of 26 people, and a dozen of people have also got they are also under the treatment of at the various hospitals. So we also need to understand that this kind of mutation which is happening between both the countries, it is kindly a kind of a sign that if things are not solved, both the countries can also conflict to each other.
Well, sir, I mean, as you said, that this started off with a terrorist attack and it escalated quite quickly. With both sides suspending foundational treaties like the Indus Water Treaty and a similar agreement, what are the immediate risks to regional stability and resource sharing when it comes to these foundational treaties, and what does it mean for the future of these two countries?
Okay, so we need to understand one thing when we are talking about this international treaty, specifically the Indus Water Treaty. So India, immediately after this Pahalgam terrorist attack, has given a statement by our Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri. He has stated that they will be abeyance of IWT till the time Pakistan doesn't stop funding the cross-border terrorism. So in that point of view, we need to understand that there is a difference between abeyance and totally suspending the treaty. There are a lot of speculations which are happening in the media house that India has totally suspended or discarded the treaty. No, we have only abeyance, we have only suspended at the moment the Indus Water Treaty, because we are seeing that this is the only option which India has left with. And we have seen how much Pakistan has also got agitated with this, which they have also counted in a way of waging a war, or they have called it as that this will be considered as an act of war. So we also need to understand this Indus Water Treaty, which was signed in long back in 1960. Its relevance and the current scenario has totally changed, because this treaty is totally outdated. And since we are having a lot many wars with the Pakistan since after 1960 also, like in 1965.
You may think of renegotiating. Is that what you're saying? That the Indian side and the Pakistani side may think of renegotiating these treaties, or are they a suspension in part due to the increasing tension between the two countries?
So particularly India decided to have a renegotiation, because what we saw in 2001 Parliament attack, and then in 2016 Uri attack happened, and then in 2019 also we had an attack, and now subsequently in 2025 Pahalgam attack. So India has been given this stance of renegotiation of this treaty. But we and our honorable Prime Minister has also stated that the blood and water cannot flow together. But from our counterpart, Pakistan, this has not been resolved, and it has always been taken to the UN or the other, arbitration, where this issue was not at all solved. So we also need to see that how much the Pakistan is ready to give away the terrorism funding or going to support this, because India has had enough of its terrorism and terrorist activities which are linked to Kashmir or Indian side also. So seeing that kind of a scenario, we need to understand that it's not a time of renegotiation, but India is ready to abeyance the Indus Water Treaty till the time Pakistan doesn't stop cross-border terrorism.
Well, sir, I mean, India's home demolitions in Kashmir, as well as Pakistan's detainment of border security forces, this is possibly inflaming the local grievances in the Kashmir region. Am I correct in stating this? And if so, what's to be done?
We have seen that Indian intelligence, and want to congratulate the Indian intelligence team that they were very much quick in taking up a lot of action, and with their a lot of insights on OSINT and HUMINT also and GeoSINT also, that they were able to cater a lot of data, and they were able to investigate that what went wrong and how things were connected with the Pakistan TRF, the Resistant Front, which is basically a Lashkar-e-Taiba outfit, a group. And due to that, two people like Adil Sheikh and Mohammed Hussain, these are the two people who were also the localites who were helping these terrorists, and their house has been built, totally built into, demonstrated. Because of that, because, India is ready to take a lot of action which are totally based on terrorist outfit. And we have seen on our counterpart, our Indian PSF soldier was also taken away. And that's not a one instance. In the past also, lot many times Indian soldiers, whenever they mistakenly skip enter the LOC or cross that area, they have been captured by Pakistanis. So that sort of a I think there is a misunderstanding here, but they are regularly captured and they are tortured by the Pakistanis. So that sort of a thing is there, but India is not going to compromise on its part of taking cross-border terrorism at a very lightly this moment.
Okay, now, sir, we've seen major powers like the United States and China largely stay silent when it comes to what's happening right now between India and Pakistan. What role could they realistically play, along with UN, to somehow mediate or de-escalate the situation?
So first of all, we need to understand that US, which is already shifting the world power, and we are seeing a lot of changes which are happening in the world power itself. So US, after coming Donald Trump's 2.0, we have seen that large number of changes are happening in the US system also. And similarly, coming to the, I think in the second month of its presidency, Donald Trump has announced that he is going to wage a war of tariff wars on different countries. And both US, both China and the other countries have been, been a part of that, where they have been applied this reciprocal tariffs. So I believe that, the world is right now focused on them, but certainly this kind of incident, terrorist attack happened in India, has now shifted their, focus on our side. But, to understand, tell you one thing, that both US and China has already condemned this kind of cowardly attack which have been done by the Pakistani Islamist terrorist group. But
yes, for sure, sir. But I mean, given the expulsion of diplomats, visa revocations, the escalations that have taken place, and the breakdown in communication channels, how can they really help in de-escalating or have a third-party mediation when things are moving on so fast or so quickly when escalating-wise?
Okay, in terms of de-escalation, we have seen that our good friend Iran has come into a place where they have also optioned us that they are ready to mediate if both the parties are ready to discuss. Even from the Pakistan side also, totally neglecting India's side, where they have called in that they want to go again for a neutral probe. But I see an India's stance is totally firm and very strong and very bold this time, that we already know who is the culprit. It's just we want to call it from our own end, that how we are going to tell Pakistan that how they can also come and sit, because this is our internal issue. We have seen that when our first Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru was there, he has also represented this kind of an issue to the UN. But this case was not at all solved. So whom are we looking at? Whom are we going to go for this kind of a resolution? I think this is an internal issue, and both India and Pakistan will definitely come to a point where they can solve out this issue on their own.
Hopefully that happens. That was Niraj Singh, Manasa Special Advisor for the South Asia Parlay Policy Initiative from New Delhi. Thank you for your insights, sir. And from southern Lebanon's ruins to South Asia's fractured treaties, tonight's crises underscore a world struggling to contain its fires. As alliances shift and civilians suffer, the question remains, can diplomacy outpace destruction? For In Focus, I'm Morsi. Good night. That brings us to the end of today's episode. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for more here on Qnews.